Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of the Sharing Hub with me, Danielle,
Me, Natalie.
and our guest,
Shannon. Shannon Curley. Hi, guys.
So this week, we're going to be discussing grief. Not an easy subject for anyone. Most people have been there. We've all lived through it or supporting people who are going through it. So we want to share a little bit about our experiences, how we've coped with it, if we're coping with it. And we've also got a few stats to share as well.
Yeah. So I think Danielle will take you through some of the stats first.
Right. I'm happy to do that, and then we can all have a bit of a conversation around it and see if we can help people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start off because I think in recent years there's been a few high-profile celebrities, people that have died, none bigger than the Queen. And I always think when people think about death and how they feel and everything, she had what she said, that quote that became famous: "Grief is the price we pay for love." I think it's so true, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, everything we do and we say, we're obviously going to be thoughtful and compassionate going forward. And, we're not here to upset anybody. It is a difficult subject. So there are commonly 5 stages of grief which people go through. The initial one is denial. Then it turns to anger. Then it turns to bargaining. I don't know why it's a really weird word, I think, bargaining.
Yeah, it is.
But that's the 3rd stage, apparently. Then it can become depression, and that turns into acceptance. And I think I know from experience, I think I've gone through every single one of those, but you sort of hit different phases, affect different people more, don't they? So for me, I think it's maybe denial or acceptance more than anger.
I think as well what you tend to do is you work your way through, but then you'll find yourself going back, repeating the cycle, or even just hitting, you might be angry one day, or you might feel like you're starting the cycle again. Because I know I've done that.
And something so simple like walking around a supermarket or a scent or an activity, and you're then reminded back again, and then it hits you like a brick. Do you know what I mean?
A piece of music.
Of course, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think those 5 stages can just be on repeat, can't they?
Yeah.
You start at the beginning, you get to the end, and then you go back to the beginning, and it's a vicious cycle at times, isn't it?
Yeah.
So with that, there's some interesting stats. 39% of bereaved people reported difficulties in getting support from friends and family. And I would say I can relate to that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's not necessarily the not getting the support. It's the person that we've lost as a family. They're all grieving as well, but people grieve differently. Do you know what I mean? So me putting my grief on and my grief onto, like, say for instance, my mum or my auntie or my granddad, it wouldn't
feel right.
Do you know, because they're grieving the loss of their mum and their wife, and do you know what I mean?
I get that.
I understand.
51% of bereaved people with high level needs experience high or severe vulnerability. I can get that, because if you've got like additional needs or whatever, or people who may be or slightly neurodivergent and struggle anyway emotionally, that makes them more vulnerable because they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
74% of bereaved people with higher severe vulnerability are not accessing any type of formal service or mental health support, which is really sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not great, is it?
No, the time when you need it most is the time you don't try and access it or ask for help.
Yeah.
Which is a bit strange. Apparently, it's a common human experience with significant impact. In the UK, 750,000 additional bereavements occurred during the pandemic, compared to 2018 and 2019. A large proportion of bereaved individuals experience loneliness and mental health challenges, and they may feel the pressure to hide grief and struggle to access support. Over half of UK adults, 54%, have experienced loss of a loved one in the last 5 years alone. And a third of people in the UK fear upsetting others when talking about grief, according to Marie Curie.
I have that with my dad, because my dad doesn't like me to talk about my mum because he deals with his grief differently.
Well, there's someone that comes to the group who has lost someone who has that exact thing with their family as well. And that's really hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Around 1 in 20 young people, that's 4.7% of the population, will have experienced the death of one or both parents by the age of 16. That's sad.
That is very sad.
Yeah, really, really heartbreaking.
It's so sad.
Grief can last for a year or longer, and while it does lessen over time, the sense of loss can last for decades. And I'm one of these people, I hate it when people say time is a healer. Time doesn't heal.
No.
You learn to live with it, or it lessens, but it never disappears.
No.
I think that's really important. A significant minority, which equates to 10% of the population, may not recover from grief at all, developing persistent symptoms of prolonged grief disorder. And I'm sure we all know people who have maybe gone through that, going through that. So yeah, there's just a few stats that feed into grief, and I suppose how they impact us and whether any of those have affected us or going through it.
I think I've always looked at my grief for my mum as life before and life after, and it's split into two. Very, very, very significant line. So like everything before, and it sounds a bit morbid, but everything before I enjoyed more. I looked forward to life more. Everything was happier. I had my go-to person. And then there was after, where all that changed, unfortunately.
I'm obviously struggling, having lost Nana just over 12 months ago now, 2 days after my 31st birthday. Sorry, guys.
No, don't apologise for crying.
My Nana had mixed dementia and Alzheimer's, and it was sad really, because when she was here, we were grieving for the woman that she used to be, for the Nana that she used to be, for the mum that she used to be, and for the wife that she used to be. She was the most amazing person, and when you watch someone you love deteriorate like that, you've got it is a strange feeling, like you're grieving for someone that's still alive, and you feel really not necessarily stupid, but you feel a bit, it feels wrong. Do you know what I mean? You do feel guilty because there's people out there, like, having listened to them statistics, and like so many percent of children have lost both parents, or one or both parents, by the time they're 16. And I think, yeah, well, my mum got to 61 and her mum was still alive and she still got a dad. But then it's just, it hits different. It hits different. And then for weeks, days, months after, you're sort of learning to sort of cope without her and grieve. And obviously I've got 2 young kids to look after, and I felt like that grief was getting on top of me. Like, I genuinely felt like I need to seek help here, because I was having flashbacks. I was closing my eyes and I could see my Nana the day before she died. I could hear the breathing going all funny, and I actually I'd self-referred to the GP. They put me in contact with the psychiatrist services, and I had initial assessments, and I've gone through all sorts. I'm now going through, just about to start trauma therapy. They said that it sounds like, obviously they can't diagnose you until you, I think, whatever, but they said it sounds like PTSD from it. And yeah, it's been a year on, and I don't feel any better from the minute when I got that phone call to say she'd passed.
Yeah. I think for you as well, because of what your Nana had, Alzheimer's and dementia, it's not one death, is it? It's like that advert when they're talking about Alzheimer's Society, the person dies over and over again, and it's repeating. So even you're seeing that deterioration constantly. And even though when she does actually passed away, it's very final, isn't it? It doesn't make it any easier. It's just repeating something.
Yeah.
We went through a phase as well. I don't know about the rest of the family. Like I say, and I'm not judging my family here, because like I say, everybody grieves at different stages, and they grieve differently. Me, I'm a really emotional person. I was attached to my Nana. My Nana was my best friend. She was my go-to girl, like literally the person I would ring when anything went wrong or anything went right. She'd be the first person that I wanted to share the news with. And then obviously when she got the diagnosis, she was still of sound mind. She still had her faculties. We could have a conversation. She just got a bit forgetful. And then towards the end, I didn't have any of that. So, and I sit back and I think, the only memories I've got of my Nana, the only memories I can remember are the bad memories, not necessarily bad memories, I don't mean that, but they're the memories where
she was struggling
and she's traumatized by her own mind, and you're having to comfort, and the only thing you can do is hold her hand and tell her she's okay and reassure her. I want to get to the point of grief where I can remember me going out shopping with her, and I can remember sat in the house with her, like when my granddad went to America and it was just me and my Nana in the house, and I want to remember all their memories. When I think of her, I just want it to be like, oh, the good times you had being, and not the times when she was obviously on the end of life pathway.
Yeah,
it's hard, isn't it? And you especially in the beginning with that. But I'm with my family very lucky when we've lost grandparents, especially on the mum's side. We always from day one have always talked about them, looked at photos, remembered everything. And like I find it quite therapeutic and I like going to the cemetery. I'm always at Agecraft going to see my grandparents. I can spend ages talking to them. Like, I find that really soothing. But we always talk, but you have to be at that point where you're ready to do that. And a lot of people are never able to do that, are they?
No, my dad won't visit my mum's grave at all. He doesn't.
Would he talk about her?
No. Now and again now, but actually no, because it's usually if I bring her up, he used to shout at me and say, no, like, I don't want to talk. But now if I mention like something we did or remember, he usually tells me he doesn't remember, to be honest. But now and again he'll say like, oh yeah. Whereas before I'd just get shouted at, but he won't have a picture of her in the house or anything. And when I put things on social media, he goes mental.
Really?
But that's my way of dealing with it. That's how I deal. It's my mum's birthday yesterday, would have been. And it's my way of, I want people to remember her.
Yeah.
I want people to remember what my mum was like. Because she was hilarious.
With my grandparents.
She was like larger than life character. And I want everyone to remember her that way. Whereas my dad would be like, he hasn't actually said anything to me this time, but I know he would have been not happy for it to pop up on his feed.
That's just his way of grieving, isn't it? His way of dealing with it.
On Facebook, you can customise each post if you didn't want him to see it.
I know.
But then he shouldn't have to either.
I suppose he's in one of the pictures as well. And
of course,
to me, or like one of the pictures that I put on, I think it might have been on, I don't know. One of the pictures that I did put on was our final holiday, and we went on that holiday on purpose so that we could have a family holiday together and have memories.
Yeah. Some people just can't cope with it though, can they? Yeah. I've got pictures all around my home of my grandparents.
I'm not even joking, it's huge. It's probably the size of your telly now, a canvas of my nana. And it turned up and I opened it and I stood there and looked at it and I thought, every time I moved, she was following me around the room. And it's like all eyes on me, like this canvas is huge and it's so realistic, it's so lifelike. But I don't know about you guys, but one of the biggest hurdles for me during the grief, like over the past year, and I feel really guilty for it, is I don't want to say that I don't, because I still do, but I don't visit my granddad's house as much as I used to. And this is what I spoke to with the psychiatrist, but when my nana died in the living room, so we had a hospital bed downstairs for her. And when I walk into that house, I open the door and I expect either to see her in the bed or to see her in the armchair. And there's none of that. And the sofa's back where the bed used to be, but all I see is my nana in that bed in her final days. So then I feel guilty because I'm not going to see my granddad as much. But that's not me. Obviously, I've got 2 kids and life gets busy, but I would always make the effort to see my nana and granddad before my nana got poorly, at least 3-4 times a week. Now I'm not seeing my granddad for 2-3 weeks at a time. And that's not because I don't want to find the time to do it. It's just because I can't pluck up the courage to walk in there and get that feeling when you walk in like a...
It's traumatising.
You know what I mean?
It's traumatising. I know exactly what you mean. Before my mum went to hospice, she was in a bed in the living room. And when my mum died, it took them about a week to come and collect everything. And going in and seeing that empty bed, knowing that she wasn't here anymore, and her oxygen and everything else that she had. I mean, even now, when I go in my dad's house, it feels weird.
Yeah,
it's hard.
It's never felt the same.
I never had that with my grandparents much, but I lost a very, very close friend back in 2000. So you're talking 25 years ago. He was a couple of years older than me, and it was an accident. It was a very traumatic accident, and he rented a room off a mutual friend. And for most of us, I don't think any of us went back into a house after it happened, because he was 23 and it was so sudden. And I certainly couldn't go back. And I carry a lot of guilt around that as well from the last time I saw him, and things. I was irritated with a lot of them, including him, over stuff. And I wasn't horrible, but didn't go out my way to be nice. I was a bit sarcastic sort of thing. And, things happen. But yeah, I couldn't imagine going into that house again, because he was so tied up with the house and even the local pub. because we used to go to the Dragon on Park Lane in Unsworth. We were in there all the time, like nearly every day of the week. And so that's sort of after he passed away initially, we were in there the day it happened, and the funeral went from there. But after that, it was like, I don't want to be in here. I can't do this. And even now, 25 years later, I'm not friendly with any of them. We sort of became obsessively glued to each other between the death and the funeral. But then it was like, right, now I need to get out of this and I need to get away. And I pulled out of the group, and I've not socialised with them since. I think I saw them 2 months later at my 21st, and that was it. Took myself out of it. Friends with a couple of them on Facebook, but that's as far as it goes. Not even friends with his sister on Facebook anymore.
Sometimes though it can't it? If you're surrounded by it all, like too much, too many, I don't know, it sometimes prevents you moving forward. It depends on you as a person.
Yeah.
I struggle so much. And I don't know. I struggle to come to terms with it. As I say, it's just been a year on the 22nd of June. Still struggle to come to terms with it, but you've just got to. And what keeps me going on a daily basis is by telling myself, if your nana could see you now, she'd be telling you to fix up and carry on.
Yeah.
Don't lose no tears over me. Do you know what I mean? And I take comfort in. I don't know about obviously people have got different opinions on afterlife and what happens and stuff like that, but I take comfort in the fact that my nana lost her brother years and years and years ago, and I don't think she ever got over his death, and then her sister a couple of years ago, and obviously her mum and dad, and I just keep saying to myself, I hope the reunion was as beautiful as what I think it would be. Yeah. And then obviously it's just
whatever works for you,
yeah, because it works. Some things work for, like my mum, for instance. My mum, hi mum, if you watch this, I'll hear it. My mum and my granddad can't watch videos, can't see my nana alive, like singing and dancing and talking and all these pictures and stuff. They can't watch them. They look at the pictures, but they can't see her moving. But my auntie, on the other hand, she takes great comfort in when I'm sharing her videos, like sharing videos of my nana singing and talking and laughing and joking. And she loves it. And I think I love ringing my auntie, and I say to my auntie, on my mum's phone, and I've got the other phone in my hand, oh, look at this, turn it round, and we have a laugh and we have a cry.
Yeah. Not
done it for ages, but my mum I just love for my mum to be able to see it. But people, like you say, people deal with it differently, don't they? Do you know what I mean? Everyone deals with grief differently.
Yeah, and it's like you said, some people don't believe in an afterlife. Like, got friends.
My dad doesn't.
Absolutely convinced you're gone and that's it. Nothing. I can't think of anything worse. For me, there has to be something better.
Of course, yes.
When my mum died, I became obsessed with that, because as much as I've had people die around me before, but that was the one that has hit me the worst. Yes, yeah. And I just couldn't stop thinking about death, about my own mortality, about what if there is nothing? There's got to be something. Yeah. Do you know? And I was also very, very bitter about anybody that still had a mum, which is ridiculous. But it used to drive me mad. Going out with my mum today, I'm like, oh, well, good for you. I think it's not their fault.
Yeah. It's understandable, isn't it? Especially if you're very close to somebody and you lose that relationship and you see somebody else. It's not even bitterness. It's possibly a little bit of jealousy that they've still got that.
I just found
it's a natural reaction.
I just get angry. Anger. Yeah. But I used to get angry. I was like, oh, why do I need to know that you're going out with your mum today? And I'm like, for God's sake, Nat. Because I used to, I've done the same thing. I used to say, oh, I'm going out with my mum today. Oh, I love spending time with my mum. And somebody else is entitled to do the same. And I've got past that now.
Yeah.
But it was an issue for a while.
An issue for me was having friends that still had grandparents, or family members that still had grandparents, or whatever, people on Facebook, social media. And they still have the chance, they still have the opportunity to go and visit them grandparents, and they don't go and see them. Do you know what I mean?
That winds me up.
And this isn't targeted at anyone in particular, but I just think you only get one mum, you only get one dad, or you only get two mums, two dads, whatever. But you only get two nanas, two granddads, or whatever, and two grandparents, and they don't go and see them. And I think just take an hour out of your week to go and have a brew with them, check in on them, make sure they're okay. Do you know what I mean?
We see Nick's parents quite a lot, but then Linda's got this. I love Linda, but Linda's got this thing when you're leaving and it's dead cute, and she comes over to the car and she clings on. she clings onto the window, like you try. Nick starts putting the window up, and she's like this because she's still trying to have a conversation with you before you go. And it was only recently I said, you need to listen to your mum, speak to your mum, because at the end of the day, that is something that you'll remember and miss. And it's true. There are things that you'd think to yourself, why on earth did I not just let her say that last thing? She just wants to have a quick word. It takes 2 minutes. And it's like, I'm going. And I'm like, you'll regret it one day.
My grandma, it was the reverse of my grandma. She'd say something and we'd laugh at her. And she'd be like, you'll miss me when I'm not here. I could be dead this time next year. You'll miss me when I'm gone. And it's so true.
My mum used to say that.
I think that's a very Jewish,
morbid way. Do you know what my mum used to, I've got to share this because it used to make me laugh. It's a bit weird. So it's not for everyone's taste. But when my mum got her terminal diagnosis, and at the very beginning, she was quite well. So we made the most of it and went out quite a lot. So we'd be in a restaurant, they'd be taking a while to bring the meal. And mum would shout, come on, love, I'm dying of cancer, eh? If you don't bring me a meal, I'm going to snuff it. I'm like, oh my God. But that was her way of dealing with the fact that she handled it absolutely remarkably. I couldn't have handled it the way she did.
You don't know how you'd handle it unless you're in that position.
No.
Went through 2 days of where she just sobbed. Because...
After the diagnosis?
Yeah, because she thought she was just going to die. Like, she said to the doctor, am I just going to die? Like, am I just going to go to sleep and not wake up anyway? It doesn't happen like that.
No.
I mean, in some ways, not at the beginning, but it would have been nicer not to watch.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But I think terminal now can have such a different meaning because you can be terminal, but it's incurable because with meds you can live for a long time in that terminal state.
Yeah.
So you can still have a life.
Yeah. Well, they only gave my mum 3 months. So
I don't know about you, but like with regards to your mum, what got me was what got me was
sorry, the doorbell's just gone and the dogs have gone a bit mental. Go on.
Is it? Yeah. Just tell them 1 minute. Sorry guys, my children have decided that they wanted to pop in and they're not coming in. So what got me was when Nana obviously got this diagnosis, and then I found out that it was a medication that could sort of prolong the symptoms. I don't know whether it's true or not. And I sort of felt like a bit. What's the word I'm looking for? A bit annoyed, really. Because, I was a bit annoyed because I thought, well, if not necessarily a cure, I don't know about it. I've not researched it. If obviously there was a cure or there was something that could prolong the symptoms of dementia and Alzheimer's.
Delay them.
Well, why has my nana not been given that opportunity to take it? And then you see people, do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's so frustrating. It's just.
I missed what you were talking about then.
That medication.
I've heard Manjaro jab.
That's meant to be very good for dementia, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Don't know how true it is.
I don't know how true it is, but it's something that I keep reading.
We'll have to research that because that's my biggest. One of my biggest fears now about obviously getting old is please don't let me end up like that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, don't let me end up with dementia or Alzheimer's and that's again part of the grief as well. Because the doctor said, "What are your concerns?" And I said, "Well, what if I get it?"
Apply that to anything.
Like, do you know what I mean?
I was just going to say, anyone who's watched anyone suffer with cancer, you can think, well, if it's in the family, am I going to get it?
Yeah.
But that leads on to that's a whole other topic on health anxiety, which I think we are going to look at.
A lot of people have health anxiety, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
I have a friend that has health anxiety really bad.
Definitely.
I'm just laughing then.
Memories.
Yeah.
Memories are great. I always think like certain times of the year, Jewish holidays, and my grandma would be there and she'd be sat and she'd be talking about when she was growing up and her grandma and all the things they did, or like her family, like her grandparents, they had waterproofing factories back in Manchester, and how a grandma on every Thursday she'd make great big pans of chips for the workers and go and feed them and stuff. All these memories, and you miss that because there's no one here now to tell those stories, is there? No. And I remember her doing it, and my mum obviously we've been like got a lot of the stuff that she had, like we kept a lot of things, but it's not the same.
It's quite sad actually, because you just said about like the Jewish holidays and stuff. When you like look back, like when I look back to being a child, and you think about all, because we used to have it at my Auntie Susan's, and there'd be
Passover.
loads of us. Like the table was massive, and there'd be loads of us. And I think now, if I think back and think around that table, there's barely anyone left.
Same for us. I remember Mum having
And
like
it's horrible.
15, 20 people for Passover, and now they're pretty much all gone.
Yeah.
Every like Christmas time, whatever, it's shrinking numbers,
Shrinking down, and then that makes you think about your own mortality as well. It does for me, because you think, oh my God, I'm moving into that generation, because all the older generation in my family are gone.
Also, I think grief really, when you lose somebody in that older generation, like you say, it makes you very aware of it. And then you look at your parents and you think, they're that next step now, and once they're gone, it's us, because we are that. It really does heighten. And you look at your parents and you worry about your parents, like every time they're ill or they've got an injury, or because my mum had cancer a few years ago. I mean, thankfully she's still here. It's 9 years, but
my dad's got his checkup this month.
Every time I look at her, if she's ill, and I think, oh, do you know, it's there at the back of your mind.
When my dad got diagnosed with bladder cancer, even though it was treatable, you've never seen anything like the way I was. Like, talk about neurotic. I was absolutely beside myself.
Yeah, but because you've lost a parent to cancer.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a doctor. And it definitely not gone past there, and it's definitely within the bladder wall. And he's like, you must have thought, God, who's this girl? My dad's like, Natalie. Doctor's just said.
Oh, God.
But it was, and now he's got his cystoscopy this month, and I'm absolutely beside myself. And he's fine. Well, as far as we know.
Yeah.
He's not like displaying any horrendous symptoms. We never know with my dad, because
I think that's quite normal though, to worry about things like that.
Yeah. Obviously, I have health anxiety over my dad, not myself.
Yeah.
I'm a bit like that. I think I worry more about other people and older generations, and because you don't know how long they've got.
Yeah, it's just horrible. Or even if Nick's poorly, I get really stressed. Like, please don't be ill, I can't cope.
I think as well that comes from the fact that you've gone through grief, you've lost people that you're close to, you know how that feels, and it's a thing that you don't want to have to go through it again.
No, I really don't.
That's all a symptom of the grief that you suffered or still suffering. And
yeah, I think as well, I'll just say it very briefly, but I've said to you, haven't I, about like, for me not having a family of my own children, like losing twins. I've always said to you sometimes, and it won't just apply with babies, it'll apply in lots of different ways, but you also grieve the life that you never had. Of course, because you plan a life when you're young, don't you? Everyone does. Yeah. When I'm by this age, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have this, and I'm going to have this many kids, and I'm going to have this job. And for me, all those dreams, I haven't fulfilled any of them.
No.
Because life took a different path. But then I think, it's took a different path. It's not great, but I'm also very, very lucky, because if I'd not met Nick and then the girls and Jake, I've created a family.
Of course,
they're not my children, but
but you love them like you.
But it's a family, and then I am very lucky. I've got a roof over my head. I've got food in my belly. There's lots of people far worse off. So then you have to rationalise what you're thinking. Yeah, I'm grieving for the life I never had, but look what I have got. You have to, but it's not always like that. Some days, again, you go through that cycle. I get angry. But why have I not got this? Why am I not well? Why have I not got a good career?
And that's normal to feel like that, though. That's normal to feel like that. You're not.
Well, the more people you speak to, a lot of people do relate to it, whether it is to do with their health or anything. They'll say, "No, I'm the same."
Yeah, because I think a lot of people associate grief specifically with somebody dying, but it isn't. Like you say, it's about so much more. It's grief over a life you didn't have. It's grief every time someone like your Nana had dementia, deteriorates a bit, and they lose a bit more of the personality in themselves. Grief can be for so many different things.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do just think it's, losing someone, but it can be quite widespread.
Yeah.
And like, I had a friend that lost a child.
Not easy.
No, but an older child.
Because you lost an 11-year-old son to cancer. How do you deal with that?
No,
this was suicide. But you're just like, I can't even. I'm not saying it's worse or everyone's different, but I don't know how you'd get through that.
So
grief.
My best friend growing up, when I lived in Urmston, and she, it was death by misadventure,
right.
And I've watched her mum completely and utterly crumble.
Yeah.
And she's wanted to be with her, and then she's obviously her grandchildren have come along, and they've brought her some form of comfort. And because I think she sees her daughter in one of her granddaughters, and she takes comfort in it. And you know what? She's got there, and I sit there, and I often sit, like Mother's Day, for instance, sit there and I think, even though Lucy passed away in 2006, how many years is that? That's 20. Is that
it's
19 years. And I sit there and I think that's 19 Mother's Days that she's done without her daughter. Yeah, she's got 2 sons, but I always think it's that little bit different with your daughter, like as a mother and a daughter. Do you know what I mean? I always think that, like, I'm not saying that I'm any closer to Millie than I am to Jude, but I often think, how must she be feeling? Because Mother's Day, it's the girls usually that come around with the flowers and the chocolates and all that kind of stuff.
Daughters stay closer to the mothers, whereas boys tend to drift a bit once they have the families and they marry and everything. It's that becomes a friendship, doesn't it? And as much as mother to daughter.
It just that's that, and as well, I often sit and think, touch wood, it never happens, but it's gonna happen, but not while the children are young. But I often sit back and I think, what would I sit there and I worry about what would happen to my kids if anything happened to me. Now I know my kids would go to my mum, but you can't beat a mother's love, can you? Do you know what I mean?
It's difficult. Well, you also think back, because grief, I mean, like people who've lost kids or miscarried or stillbirths, and like nowadays they have the opportunity to say goodbye and to bury them. But you think back, even as far as what the early 60s, the 50s, they were just taken away from them. Thrown in mass graves. They didn't get a funeral or anything. And like, how do you live with it? Because no closure for those poor families. How would you have even
no death, no birth or death certificate or any acknowledgement, nothing. Now I think there's a case of, it's not necessarily I don't know if it's a birth certificate. I think it's, I'm not going to say for definite, so please don't take this as gospel, but if I'm not mistaken, now there's a register that acknowledges children that were born, or I don't know about miscarriage, but children that were born, stillborn, there's a register that obviously they can get a certificate to sort of say that we acknowledge that there was a birth and the baby wasn't.
I think it happened to my grandma. She had a child, but she never knew what happened to it. Never told her. Like, just how do you live with that?
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Very, very sad.
Heartbreaking. And we know people who've lost.
I know a few. I know a few that they're like born sleeping.
Yeah. I know quite
very
a few.
sad.
Not easy. What a depressing subject.
Heavy, isn't it?
I know, I feel a bit like,
it's a bit heavy.
But I feel like a bit of a weight's been lifted talking about it, because it's like I was saying to you this morning, that like it would be nice to sort of give your side of things, like sort of say like, this is how grief has made me feel. This is how losing someone I've lost friends. I've lost loads of friends to different circumstances, but I've lost my dad's mum, bless her, but she passed away when I was 6, so I don't really remember. I remember her, but don't really remember her death. But with this Nana, like with my Nana, like she's the first person that I've lost that obviously really meant something. And I'm not saying for 1 minute that my friends didn't mean anything to me, but somebody that I was so close to, somebody that loved me and I loved her, like. But
it's also when they're so actively involved in your life and you're there in their life, you feel the loss all the more.
Of course. I cared for her Monday to Friday for the last 12 months of her life, and when she first died, I thought, what am I going to do with my life? Like, what am I going to do to bide my time? I wasn't ready to go back to work because I couldn't cope with the feelings that I was having and the emotions that I was having. So I took some time away, and you know what? It doesn't get easier. It does not get easier. Time's not a healer, like you were saying before. You just learn to sort of, and I feel like now I'm at a point where I wake up every morning, like I said, like you said, I've got a roof over my head, my children are healthy, my children are happy. That's all that I can ask for. Like, as long as everybody's of good health, and as long as, do you know what I mean? That's all I wish for, is that my family and friends, good health. And
that's all. Yeah, It's the most important
Yeah,
thing.
Positivity does.
But it's true, isn't it? Time doesn't heal. And the other thing I really can't stand, if we're talking about grief, really winds me up is when people go, oh, it's like elderly. Oh, well, they've had a good life. So in their 80s. That winds me up. Does that make it any easier?
But no. I've said that about my nana, and I think that's my way of coping with it, in the sense that, like you were saying,
say it to yourself, but not to other people.
I try saying it to my mum, like, well, you know, my nana she was 85, and look at the legacy she's left behind. She's left behind 6 kids, 15 grandchildren, 20 odd great grandchildren. She was, you know, she's not, and then after sort of, and then you go to the next day, oh well, at least she's not suffering. But I genuinely use that all the time to myself. Nana was 85.
That's your coping.
She wasn't a baby. Do you know what I mean?
You going around like dismissing the death of somebody.
Yeah, no, I get that. But
no matter how old somebody
definitely
is, that's still somebody's parent, loved one. You know, they're still grieving. They still have that love, and they've lost that.
Yeah. Doesn't make it any easier, does it? Because they've been on this planet for 85 years.
No, I get it when kids are very young and they get killed, and then people go, "Oh my god, how tragic!"
Yeah.
Or thinking the footballer the other day. I mean, that was just horrific.
So sad.
Did you see that thing? It's gone viral with Oasis on their opening night, where they
put the picture live forever, and they had I actually couldn't believe that. I was shocked that they did that.
I know, really good.
And Liverpool, obviously, I don't know if we can talk about all this, but Liverpool have said that number 20 will not be going to any other player in the future. Contract. And they're honouring the contract till June 2027 and paying his family. And I just think, you know, it's sad. That man was 28 years of age. That family have lost a 26-year-old son and a 28-year-old son in a tragic car accident. That newly wedded wife that got married 10 days prior to his death has lost not only a brand new husband, the father to her children, and then 3 kids have now got no dad. And I just think, you think about it like that. Do you know what I mean?
Like, and like you were saying, the life she had planned and the life she saw when she said "I do" and was with him. Like that's gone.
Being very young, weren't they? So that's like
everything's gone with it.
I can't even comprehend what. No. And then for the mother and to have to bury 2 sons.
And but not only that, to have to deal with the public, because he's such a public figure as well. She's not even able to deal with that grief privately.
No, I saw a horrible picture where she was like obviously in the thing like throes of grief, like screaming at the funeral, and somebody had done a very close-up picture of the mother's face. And you're like, why? And
what I don't get is when they were carrying the coffins out, one coffin after the other, the 2 coffins, and the Sky News is there videoing as they're coming out with the coffins. I understand that they've allowed members of the public, they've allowed like fans and stuff to stand outside and listen to the funeral service, but at least keep the cameras away and let them grieve. Do you know what I mean?
Show some respect.
Let them grieve, and let them especially on the day of the funeral.
I was at a funeral in January and for someone, and I'm not going to say who because I don't, just in case anybody watches it, it's not fair. But like some of the people that were there that were close to the person that had passed away, who was so devastated and distraught, and the crying and the wailing, almost like the last thing I can't imagine. The last thing they would want is some cameras stuck in their faces. Like it's just make it 1,000 times worse.
No.
To then see it being replayed over TV or in papers, this image of you or video of you, like. Beyond heartbroken.
I wouldn't want, I mean, as a non-famous person, I wouldn't want somebody, even a friend or anyone, filming a funeral I was at.
No.
Because especially, why?
I've been to a funeral before now, and people have videoed the hearse, the videos, the lowering into the ground.
I've been to one
and
like that.
I've even been to a funeral before now where they've had a content creator there. And the video in it all, everyone coming in and stuff like that. But that again, that was his family's wishes. And at the end of the day, they want to remember it. And there's a lot of things, not necessarily in the UK, but in Ireland, there's a few. I don't know how it's come on my For You page on Facebook. That's TikTok, but how it's come on my newsfeed on Facebook. But there's a funeral directors that actually pay and video the whole service, the whole funeral, bringing the coffin out, putting them into the hearse, putting them into the ground, people crying. And people want that. I don't think I want, there's a video from my nana's funeral we had the service recorded at the church, and I look back at that, and I don't know why I do it, maybe it's just how I'm dealing with it, but the whole service was recorded.
I think that's slightly different
That was for family that were able to make it.
Yeah, I've seen that before, and I think that people are doing readings and some people can't be there, and then they can listen to the lovely reading that you did and things like that. It's slightly different, but I've seen some very distasteful things on social media.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I mean, people might look at me and go, well, I think it's wonderful. Who are you? But for me,
personally,
like lowering the coffin and then they're all having drinks and
I think that's
giving thumbs ups while they're having a drink and
quite alien to me anyway, because you wouldn't have that at a Jewish funeral.
No, you wouldn't at a Jewish one.
They're so fast.
Yeah, but Muslim funerals are quite similar to Jewish funerals, and I have seen it at a Muslim funeral. And I was not the drinking, but the filming of everything. But some of it was, no disrespect, but some people there, the women, not so much the men, because you couldn't stand at the coffin, you were way back.
Yeah.
They all had like really nice outfits on, and they were filming that. And I'm like, we're at a funeral, we're burying the dead, literally 12 hours after that person's died. Why are you stood there posing? I don't get it.
I don't even think it'd be allowed at a Jewish funeral, to be honest.
I don't think it'd even be thought of. I don't think anyone would do it.
No, I don't think.
But I've been to all sorts of weird and wonderful.
Yeah.
I went to one once where my dad worked in a children's home and my lad got stabbed to death. It was horrific. And my dad said, please, will you come with me to his funeral? I'd only met the lad once, so I was there to support my dad. I wasn't there for me. And they were all doing dances down the thing and they all had beers. He was a young lad, and they're all pouring bits of beer, and I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" I've never seen anything like it.
I've been my friend, well, my friend's dad passed away, and he liked to smoke, and drink rum. So they were all having. They brought a bottle of rum, and everyone was having a rum at the graveside after he'd been buried. That's just a way of celebration of life. He'd been poorly for a while, so they were celebrating his life.
They were tipping it on the coffin, like, have some of that. I want to do
I've actually
not ruined the wood.
I have not.
Think anybody was bothered.
I have not done it at a funeral, but I have took my nana a flask of tea to the cemetery, 2 cups, poured myself one, poured her one.
You're having a personal moment with you.
And then threw it on the grass, and I thought, oh God, I hope it doesn't start stinking now. You know, the grass, like from it, like tea and milk in the sun and all that. Flies hanging round. Said, you better get that bleeding tea drank now, cheeky.
You'd freak out if you went back a few hours later and the cup was empty.
I know.
Yeah. Even though logic could say it's probably just someone.
Or a bird or
But you would freak out if you went back and that cup was empty.
She'd be there thinking, bloody hell, Shan, you could have bought me a biscuit with me, bro.
Well, I have. Do you know what? Thinking about this, right? So I said to her years ago, she said, you know, if you go to, this is my nana's mentality, right, when she was a sound man. If you go to heaven before I do, will you come back and give me a sign and tell me what it's like? So I said, yeah. I said, but if you go before me, will you come back and give me a sign? She went, no, I'll come back and blow your light fitting. I'll come back and blow your electricity. I said, don't be like that. I thought, no, I'm waiting for my electricity to blow in the house. Thinking, come on, Nana, give me a sign.
At least if it did, it'd be a positive thing. You'd be like, oh my God.
Oh yeah,
rather than going, oh no, electricity.
Yeah, but not I'll come to you in your dreams, and you know this. Not I'll come to you in your dreams and speak to you. No, I'll blow your electrics and scare the life out of you.
I do genuinely believe when my grandpa passed away, he was coming out from the bathroom back into the living room, and there was a glass door, and I was stood in front of him, and my mum was next to him, and my uncle, and I think my brother was behind me. I don't know where my dad was. And he just sort of stopped, and he stopped. It was like he was staring past me, and he was just looking up. And he just had this big smile on his face. It was like he had seen something, literally, big smile. And I was going to him, Grandpa, because he was just stopped dead in the entrance to the room at the door. And he was just looking, staring, smiling. And the next thing, he just went down like that, and he was gone. He'd obviously seen something.
Yeah, that's mad. That's crazy.
You know, we say it was my grandma, she'd come back for.
Yeah, well, at least we're smiling. That's a lovely memory to have, that, isn't it?
I genuinely believe that there is definitely something.
Yeah.
Oh, I am, definitely.
My grandma, when she was in hospital dying, she saw something. She said, turn the light off, it's so bright, and it was evening and it was dark.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Anyway, I think we should
wrap
it up.
Yeah.
So if you've benefited from this, then please like and subscribe to the channel. Share as much as you can. The more people like it, the more it gets out there. really important. If you've got any experiences, then please feel free to share them with us as always.
Yeah, if you've anything we've said has resonated with you, then let us know.
And we'd like to thank Shannon for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon.
No problem.
And we will be back soon.
Yeah, see you later.
See you later. Take care.